Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Machin Le'Roa Online Smicha. Now, we know what the Mishnah says, Shuv Yoim Echad L'fnei Misasach, that a person should always do tshuva one day before he passes away. And because obviously people don't know when that day is, so that's a way to remind people to do tshuva every day. And we actually do different things throughout the year to remind us for that day that will also keep a person humble, knowing that he doesn't live forever. And that's why we find that at certain times people wear kitlach, the white garments, to remind us for the Yom HaMisah. So as it is that way, in the day-to-day life when people are healthy and all good, the question is, what is it really, what garments do we really wear that is really put on a body when it's being buried? So there is a Gemara in Masechet Moed Katan, Daf Chav Zayin Amud Beis, a very famous Gemara. The Gemara says, Barishayna, originally in the earlier times, originally in the earlier times, doing a burial for a dead body, a relative, Rahman al-Islam, was even more difficult than the actual fact that the relative died. Why? Because there were so many expenses with the burial and the fancy clothing that they would put onto him that the people, God forbid, couldn't handle it. And the Gemara says, that the people would run away, leaving the dead body because they couldn't deal with the expenses, and they would leave for the community to go take care of and bury the dead. Now that became a big problem. It was embarrassing also, but they just couldn't handle the financial cost. Until Rabbi Gamaliel came along, the Noah Kalas Roish Ba'atzmai, and he acted in a way of what seemed to be cheap, meaning to say everybody used to get buried in fancy clothing. The rich people were able to dress the dead with fancy, nice clothing, a fancy casket and all that. So Rabbi Gamaliel said, no, bury it in the most cheap way, to be able to be fair for all. Now, Tosfos says, two pirushim, how he did it in a cheap way. Either he instructed that when he dies, they should use the most simplest clothing, or he asked a family member of his, Rahman al-Islam, passed away while he was alive, and he started a custom with his own family member. What did he say? The Yotzer B'Kli Pishton. And he said that they used the simplest flax, clothing made out of flax, the simplest clothing, and make it as simple so everybody can use so. The Nagu Ha'am Acharov Lotzeis B'Kli Pishton. Once Rabbi Gamaliel established this, it was a set for everybody to be able to do it. It was affordable, feasible for everybody, and that's how it became the custom. And the Gemara goes on to say, Amar Rav Papa says, Va'idna, and today's days, once Rabbi Gamaliel made it fit and set for everybody, in other words, there's nothing that a simple person can bury his dead in an honorable way, because you don't need to have the most fanciest clothing. No Alma, it's customary that you bury a filu b'tzar de bazuzah, even in a canvas type of thing, a garment made out of canvas that's not even worth a penny, and meaning to say everybody, it's accepted to follow Rabbi Gamaliel's custom to make it feasible, affordable for everybody. And there's actually more reasons to this. The more reasons to it is to show that it's not, once you're at that level, value is not based on money and a nice suit, an expensive suit. You're focused. And especially, and there's many reasons why it's specifically tried to be done with pishton made out of flax, because there's a benefit of that, as it's brought in Svarim too. But it's something that's affordable and feasible to all. Now in halacha, it's also brought that it's preferably that it should be white, and these two things, that it's made out of silk or flax, and it's white, has many other benefits to it. Some say they want to compare it to the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, that was some of his garments that he wore was white, big day love and big day bad. and it should also be a remez, a sign that you are ready for Tchias HaMesim, you're ready for the time when there will be the revival of the dead. And the revival of the dead, every Yiddish can call the Mamleches Kohanim, part of the Jewish people who are priestly kings. And La'aseh Love, every Yid will be in the level of a Kohen Gadol. So because the Kohen Gadol and Yom Kippur would wear Big Day Bad, Lavan, so we will also, when that happens, every Yid will wear Big Day Bad Lavan. It's also brought that Daniel Hanavi, in his Nevuah, when he saw how Hashem is dressed, it also says that Hashem is dressed in white. And white, we always know, is a symbol of clean. There's no schmutz, there's no dark, there's no chatoim, there's no sins. It's a clean slate. That's why it's customary to bury a person in the most simple white garment for all these reasons. Now, it's brought in Shulchan Aruch two other issues about this. Number one, in the Yeridea Siman Shin Mem Tes, it's brought that when things are used for a dead body, whatever is used for the dead body is Asur B'Hana. You're not allowed to benefit from it. You're not allowed to use it anymore. Now in Shulchan Aruch it says that even these shrouds that they used for a dead body, you can't use it for any other reason, for any other purpose. So at what point does it become part of the dressing of the dead body? So the Shulchan Aruch, the poskim say that's not only after it's already dressed on the dead body. It's even once it was put on the bed or in the casket near the dead body, it already becomes part of its belongings, and you're not allowed to have any hana from it. One halacha. Another halacha is, the question is, what happens if you dress the dead body in a garment that has 4 corners? Or, which will lead into the custom, some bury the dead with tzitzis. What's the problem with that? The problem with that is that we know that in the world to come, once a neshama departs this world, it cannot do any more mitzvahs. Because all the mitzvahs that we're able to do, we do in this world. The pasuk says, "B'meisim chafshi." The dead are free from the mitzvahs. They can't do it anymore. So if they can't do it anymore, they're not only they can't, and they're not obligated. So once a person becomes in that status, he has no chiyuv anymore to wear tzitzis. So that's a big question. Should he wear tzitzis? Should he not wear tzitzis? And from the other hand, there are certain obligations, prohibitions that we are not allowed to have in our clothing. We're not allowed to have kolayim, joint different types of mixtures of threads make up a garment. But because when a person is dead, he can't do any more mitzvahs, maybe he's free from that. That's a whole long discussion. I want to just conclude with a halacha that the Aruch HaShulchan says in Siman Shin Nun Aleph in Yeridea. The Aruch HaShulchan says, today's days, the minig, a simple custom is that you do allow the mess to wear tzitzis, but before you lower him into the ground, you cut off one of the tzitzis, so it shouldn't be kosher. And there's a question when it should be done. Okay, now I'm reading the Aruch HaShulchan. It could be other people have different customs, but what's fascinating about this, he says, "V'shamaiti bebirur." I heard clearly about 2 Torah giants that one told his students that they should bury him with all his tzitzis and not cut anything off. And when that student came to dress his teacher with all the shrouds, he started feeling stomach aches. He started feeling pains. He went out of the room. Some other people dressed him, and they didn't know what the instructions the Rebbe gave, so they cut one of the tzitzis. And when the student came back into the room, he started screaming, "That's not the instruction I was given by the rabbi." And the people said that was a heaven-sent message from heaven that you shouldn't change, you shouldn't make any difference. If everybody cuts the tzitzis, you should also. That's one story. The second story is That way, when they put another rabbi into his grave with the tzitzis, one of the tzitzis got stuck and it got pulled by itself. And everybody saw that this is a message from heaven that this should not be done. And he writes in the parentheses that the first story is about the Vilna Gaon, and the second story is from Reb Zalman Behordona, the author of Yisoy and Sheresh Avoda. They both wanted to be buried with tzitzis, and for some odd reason, the tzitzis was taken away from them, even because it's sort of laughing at the if you're going to go upstairs with tzitzis, nobody else, no mace, could wear tzitzis, so it's laughing that others can't perform.